Chess Survivors doesn't come around until I like quit my job to take a little sabbatical from work, and that sabbatical turns into eventually like a 9 month stint where I make Chess Survivors. But like up until then, it was like small game jam projects like that that mode where you're making prototypes, and in the moment I wouldn't call them prototypes. I was like, this is my next game. This is my next game. This is my next game. It's like you're lying. It's like not even lying to yourself. It's like you don't have the skill set to understand that what you're doing is prototyping. It's like, oh, I'm gonna make this game. It's gonna be great. It's gonna be awesome. And then I'm like, oh, actually, I can't make that game. Cool. I'm gonna start something else. And so
Hmm.
a lot of dead prototypes along the way.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that that kind of thought process and that ladder that you climb to get to your first release game seems like it's a shared experience between
Yeah.
most developers. I know my own lived experience in working towards trying to release a full game is that exact same steps on that rung, right? You do a
Hmm.
lot of prototyping and you go, that's not good enough, that's not good enough, I can't make that. And then you step into something that you go, okay, this is looks like something I can finish, right?
Yeah,
Is
it feels
it
like killing early mobs in WoW where you're like just gaining some just like piddly XP here and there, doing simple little
Yep.
quest, go kill 10 boars here. But and you're like you're just gaining experience so that eventually you can like answer the question, what is a game I could even see to the finish line, let alone like put onto Steam that's actually playable on someone else's computer for so long. Like I remember that very first game jam I did. I had made the game and I was like, oh, I should submit this. And I woke up on it was like, or no, it was like Saturday night. I worked on the game jam for 14 hours straight. Kind of started losing my mind. I was like trying to fall asleep, and I was like, how on earth do I give this to anybody else to play? And I was like, oh my gosh, no one's gonna be able to rate it because they can't play it. And that basically killed the game jam because I'm like, I don't know how to build an exe file. I don't know how to. Do I host a server? I don't know how to set up a. So it's like all of a sudden, just like that. A lot of those moments of like I have no idea how to do that next step. We're just so plentiful at the beginning.
Yeah, it's funny. There's I'll make fun of myself, and I'll some of this footage will be running now on the YouTube video if you're watching it through there. Is that I had decided to create a game about flipping a coin. I was like,
Yeah.
okay, everybody I watch and all the content I consume about making indie games is make something very small. It's like that's the smallest, most simplest thing I can think of.
Yeah.
And then after I had built it, I did some research that okay, I looked at the name. The name was Flip a Coin. Nobody had made a game called Flip a Coin, so I thought I was good. But I did a second check in prototyping. It turns out somebody has made that game and made it a lot better than I would have made it. Um, and the good news is that people liked it, so at least my idea had some legs. But
Yeah.
because because somebody had already gone that route, I said, okay, instead of flipping a coin, I'll make something like Balatro, where you get poker chips and then those augment how you flip a coin and all that. But the long and short of it is that game sucked. It was just a bad Balatro, and every
Mhm.
time I played it to test it, I did not want to hit play in game mode in Unity. I just
Sure.
didn't want to play it, and
Sure.
so um, I think a lot of devs go through that process of, and it's a disheartening thing. Did you ever feel that way with? I mean, we'll get into Hexagod, which I'm really excited to talk about
Yeah.
because I think now that I've played enough Hexagod, I think it's my favorite game of yours. Um, but
It's my favorite game
um,
too.
but did you feel that way at all at certain parts of the development of Chess Survivors, where you're like, this just isn't fun right now, and then you had to design fun into it?
With Chess Survivors, absolutely. But like the whole point of Chess Survivors was to make a game that I could release on Steam because it's like
Hmm.
I was still doing game jams for so like from 2020 to like 2022. It was hobby projects, kind of try starts and stops, constant, self doubt, self criticism. But like I had done enough game jams where I could then see and look backwards and see, okay, here was game one, and now here's game five. Game just like game jam five. Oh, I could see progression. And the games are simple, they're very arcadey, they're very, not anything impressive, but you can start to see skills getting developed. And I think that's something that is an antidote to these feelings of like I can't make anything, I can't do anything, I can't make a game that's like that, or I see a game about feeding a black hole and I have
Mhm.
no idea how Aarimous did some of those things. Like I felt that way constantly getting to make games.
Yeah.
But as you can look back at your portfolio of work, you can see this kind of like slow kind of uptick of like your skills.
Mhm.
And at one point, I saw Chess or not Chess Survivors is my game. I saw Vampire Survivors come out. And I was like, it was the first game I remember seeing. I'm like, I could make that game. I could have made that game. Like probably not actually because of the like optimization problems that
Mhm.
would have came about. But like I saw that and I was like, I could have made that art. I could have done these like things. And I'm like, not even that, but it's like I feel like I know how to at least make something like that. I also saw Shotgun King that had won Ludum Dare that year, and I loved the idea of it using chess in this like different way. And I was like, oh, cool. I grew up playing chess, never competitively, nothing, just like as a kind of fun tabletop game. And just one day, I was like, what? I was literally on a toilet, and I was like, what if I combine those two things together? And then it was the process of making Chess Survivors was really hard and really challenging to kind of figure that all out. But um, yeah, I it was always like, let me get a game on Steam. And so there was some
Mhm.
of the like ideas of scope creep kind of seeping in there of like how to combat that scope creep to make something that is like nice and confined. And always looking back at like the survivor genres, I feel like they're nice because it's kind of the game is a template more or less. You're gonna have a bunch
Mhm.
of abilities, they're gonna automatically fire out. You're gonna have enemies. The enemies kind of are better if they're dumb and they just walk at you. You can then spice it up by having them some of them shoot projectiles or having some of them do something different or doing games with combos and stuff like that where you like your abilities transform. But like at its very basic thing, it's like move character around automatically every so often shoot abilities. And Chess Survivors had plenty of its problems with being a grid based game, being a turn like a loosely turn based game. Like and there was very early iterations you can see like Retromation played it where the game looks really clunky and unfun versus where the finished product is. It's a little bit smoother and the gameplay loop is a little bit more satisfying.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're underselling some part of it. Like the game template is kind of built because one of the things I liked as I played it was the a lot of game dev YouTubers or bloggers call it juice, right? Like when you
Yeah.
hover the buttons for upgrades, they move and bounce. There's a lot of that
Hmm.
thoughtfulness put into the design of the UI, and of course that carries over into Hexagod
Yes. Yeah.
and a game about feeding a black hole, which is there's these through lines in your design that I really love having gone back and played them that you can see your footprint in each of them, even though they're
Yeah.
wildly different games,
Yeah.
right?
Yep. Yeah.
And that same kind of juiciness and bounciness to the UI is something I noticed has been a real throughput on all three. And so talk to me then about you released Chess Survivors. Is it the I'll say this. Did you expect Chess Survivors to do better than it did?
I expected to do far worse than it did. I had
Okay.
hopes and ideas in my head that it would do better, but it was like there was a lot of effort done into trying not to let the little voice in my head go up and be like, this game could pop off. Like,
Mhm.
but Retromation played the demo. Like this, so this game's the context of this game coming out is quite lucky. Like I saw that idea, I thought I could make it.
Mhm.
And so in the same calendar year, I am making a survivor like game. So Vampire Survivors didn't create a genre, but it made a wave of more games pop out of it, right? Like these games existed beforehand, but its popularity made it be like, oh, players are interested in this sort of a game. And so
Mhm.
I didn't pick it because it was marketable. I picked it because I thought I could do it and because it became on my radar because it broke into some of these big streamers that I like to watch. Like I remember watching Day Nine play the game and being like, "Oh, interesting! It's interesting to
Yeah.
watch Day Nine's brain work with this game." Um, I did not expect it to do very well, but at the same time, that year I had basically no income. I had quit a really toxic job in January of 2022 because it was just a really shitty company. I was like, oh, I
Mhm.
have plenty of savings here. I was making more money than I knew what to do with, which is a Also, a lucky career choices and things to do Salesforce work. All yada yada yada. Um, I was 9 months in, basically almost out of money when I released Chess Survivors into early access in November of that year. The 3 months beforehand, I was like, shit, I'm gonna run out of money, and I really love doing this. I really don't want to go back. It's like I felt like I was running through a field, falling and frolicking and tripping and standing back up and continuing to run. And then it was like, and I'm gonna have to go back inside here soon. And I was like really anxious about that. But I got a job. I also told myself I wasn't gonna sacrifice saving. So I had like an idea in my head of like I have to do this. Like so I started finding jobs at the same time that I was in the last month of development of Chess Survivors. Had a job offer on the table the Friday it released, and I said, "Hey, can I think about it over the weekend?" And they said, "Sure, why not?" And my thought was like, "What if the game does blow up?" And I can turn down the offer. So the game didn't blow up. It did do a lot better than I thought it would.
Hmm.
Um, because I think one, the capsule art is great.
Yep.
Two, I think I did have a couple good ideas in the game. Um, and three, it came out into a market that wanted games, and the game was novel enough in that market to maybe like attract some people. Did I execute the idea as good as possible? Absolutely not. I think a chess based Vampire Survivors that came out in 2022 could have slapped hard had
Hmm.
I made different design decisions and like maybe me go back into me now who has thousands of hours more experience making games, go back in 2022 in that moment, give me 9 months and say make a Vampire Survivors chess game. I might make some of the same design decisions, but I think the game could be so much more. It would be more complicated and probably not something I could have made. Um, but for a first release, that game has sold at this point like almost $30,000 to $40,000, and that is blows me away. My goal was to try
Hey,
to get
yeah.
100. I wanted 100 sales, and like it sold at least I think like 12,000 sales at this point. So
Yeah, I mean that's exceptional. I mean when you consider there's a lot of game devs in that sphere we talked about at the top of the conversation that
yeah,
just don't release games. They just habitually make games all the time, but they
yeah,
never release them. I mean, releasing them and not getting a single sale, or maybe your mom buys the game, is more than I would say 90% of hobbyist game devs, right?
yeah, yep,
It's really only the people who stay committed to a timeline and some
yeah.
goal that get one out
Loo-
there.
Looking back, I think it's helpful to have taken it really seriously though. So like that
Hmm.
was full time game dev, and I was in that mindset of like I want to keep doing this, and so I hired a capsule artist who like hadn't made any work at the time, got him really cheap. Like his work now, he's made tens and like probably like 50 or 60 capsules, and he's way more. I tried to reach out to him again, way more expensive now, but like back then
Hmm.
it's like I got to steal. Like that capsule artwork is beautiful, like,
Yeah.
and I
Oh
had
yeah.
ideas for it's like I took all these beats really seriously, and I was trying like when I talk about just try to get a game out the door with people, I'm like still make something you're proud of, still put your best foot forward, and then also have a deadline. Like that game had a deadline because I literally ran out of money. And so
Hmm.
that like that forced basically like September and October and November of that year was just like really just like really pressured to get this game and the content in a state that I could be happy enough charging $5 for the game in early access.
It's funny too because when you listen to other designers, specifically game designers and board game designers, I think I forget who it is. The one of the main designers for Magic: The Gathering
Mhm.
talked at a GDC, and he when he gave his talk, he mentioned that every time they go to release a new set, they put these really tight constraints around the design team, right? Because if you don't do that, then you could literally make any card you want, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But they set these rules and guidelines for constraints, and that helps drive design decisions up until a deadline, right? Because they're constantly
Sure.
releasing
Sure.
sets. And I think if you're in a situation like you were with Chess Survivors, where you're saying, I've got to get this out at some point. It's got to
Yeah.
release. I got to see how well it does. And, I got bills to pay. Then
Yeah.
that in and of itself is a constraint, right? It forces you to say, how can I get this complete in X amount of
Yeah.
time just due to necessity, right?
Yeah.
And you can make it a tighter, better product in a short amount of time. I do genuinely believe that, because if you gave somebody $400,000 and said you have 5 years to make a game, right? Then that game doesn't necessarily become better than if you gave that exact same scenario and said you have 3 years to make a game.
Yeah, yeah, it's true.
Because
And I
you
think it's
probably
also
spend more of
interesting.
those 5 years on your phone, or
Yeah, probably would.
watching YouTube during the day or whatever.
Yeah, you'd have so little so little not motivation, but like a fire underneath you to like get this turn to burn. Because I think another interesting perspective is what I risked, right? So if I had moved the timeline and said, well, I'm just gonna get this job, I'll take it up and I'll like keep working on this game
Mm-hmm.
to see it to like, oh, let me give 6 more months and then the game will come out and it'll be good. Well, the gamble was like, if I release it now, what if it blows up and I don't have to get this job? And so I wanted
Yeah.
to put it in the market to see what did I actually build? Is this actually good enough? Like, boy, I don't really want to release it in 6 months and then quit that job. I wanted to like roll the dice then and be like, let's see if it works. Like, who knows, right? Like, we'll throw it in the market and we'll see what happens. And you know, I learned that it wasn't good enough, but that's also like a a really good way to think about it. What's the risk of pushing it 6 months? Like if you do it now, you learn a lot now. Then in 6 months, maybe you make a new game, and that's not a bad thing at all to have a game that does come out and does sell 0 copies. Because the risk is now you've wasted 6 more months. That maybe the game isn't any better after 6 months.
Mm-hmm. And I like what you did, which is you kind of under-promised to yourself, but then over-delivered on the results, right? Where you're like, I thought this was going to do worse, but it did better.
Yeah.
And so now that's very mentally positive after you come out of that the other side, right? You're like, okay, it's validating.
I got severely depressed after it went out.
Really?
I did not never went to a therapist. I finally this last year I'm going to a therapist, which was great. But like,
Yeah, it's fantastic.
wanting to do full-time dev, like, and really enjoying that 9 month sabbatical from work, having to go back into a job. It was like December of that year, so it's already dark in Minnesota, and I was like doing this job, and I was like, oh my god, and like it was hard not to look at it like a massive failure, like I had thrown away 9 months. So like,
Wow.
I do want to say that it did come out. It did do better than I expected going in, but I also still emotionally felt destroyed by it not being able to carry me through my like game dev career. Like I had to go back and get a job again. So
Gotcha.
that
So
is
you feel
also
like
something that I had to work through.
because it wasn't a hit, it was like, oh well, I have to keep working this dog shit job, and maybe I can't do this. Was the thought?
The job actually wasn't dog shit either. The job was great. It was a cool company. I worked there for 15 months. I loved it. Was like a cool startup company. I worked with people I enjoyed working with. Like it was
Mhm.
actually not a bad job, but it's still just like in comparison to doing it full time. And like I
Gotcha.
can look back now and say, wow, for my first game, that game crushed it. That's so cool. Like I'm
Yeah.
so proud of it. I played. I can see the cracks, but I'm like, I also see some really genuine love and care given to the design. And I also want to recognize that it was a really hard winter after I released that game, and I didn't really work on it as much as I probably wanted to, and then kind of like pulled myself out in the spring and got back into a better cadence of development during that time. I also think I got pretty addicted to Path of Exile during that time, which maybe had something to do with the dopamine dysregulation, but
You're a better man than me. I've played Last Epoch is probably the only ARPG I've gotten into where I've just
yeah,
been
that's a fun
completely
one.
obsessed. But
That's a good one.
uh,
They have a nice crafting
PoE
system.
PoE 2 is better than PoE 1 by my estimation
Okay,
right now.
I think I agree.
Because PoE 1 was like a ship that had passed me by, and then some guy in a rowboat came by like 2 weeks later and was like, "We can catch up, I promise." Because it's just the
Like, come on, grab
knowledge
a
gap,
paddle, let's go.
the knowledge gap that you need,
Yeah.
and
I had to study to play that game. I like remember like
it's
league
crazy.
after league sitting down and doing like 10 to 20 hours of reading Wikipedia pages.
And I'm older. I have 3 kids, so like for me, when a
Yeah.
new WoW season comes out, it's like I'm a big WoW player, as I know you are. Like when a new WoW season
Just
comes
logged
out.
off of classic TBC to a pre-patch to come chat here.
Yeah, I mean, like, but when a new WoW season comes out in retail, I smash that and then kill the final boss. I stop playing, then I play classic for a little while, and then after I
Beautiful.
get bored with that, I stop playing, and then it's as I think with most people who play games, you have a group you play games with, so it's like intermittent TFT matches and League ARAMs and Rocket League games and Arc Raiders every once in a while, right? And that's when I can
You're
spare
almost
time.
explaining without. I've never played Rocket League. You hit the rung of like most of the games I probably play with my friends.
Yeah, and I think that's most, like lived experiences for people who are older and have jobs and
Yeah.
busy
Just
lives is
hang
you're
out.
like,
I played League
yep,
for over a decade now. I'm just trying to hang out, have a good time. I don't have an
yeah,
ego. I'm not trying to grind ranked games. I just want to go and play ARAM Mayhem with my
no,
friends and laugh with them and have a good time.
me either. I got a friend who's diamond and he won't shut up about it. But outside of him, everybody else is in the same wavelength, right? They're just like, let's
Yep.
just play ARAM,
I'm a
right?
bronze hero. Let me just play ARAM.
Because I'm a bit older than you, so I started playing. I played Dota LAN matches with my friends for a long time, and
It's like
then
when it was still a mod, like a
yeah,
free
yeah.
mod.
So I played Dota LAN
Oh,
matches with
you
a bunch of
basically created
buddies.
Riot, is what you're telling me right now.
No, what I'm telling you though is when League came out, we started playing League immediately, but we were like, what is this joke of a game? If you go back and look at season 1 League, like how it
I
looked
played that league. It
graphically,
looks bad.
yeah, it
Yeah,
looked terrible, but it was so fun.
yeah.
And so like season 1, 2, 3, I was obsessed. I was also unmarried and no kids, so that's all I did was play League. Every hour of every day I
Love
had
it.
free,
Love it.
right? So, but because I played it so much, now it's just like to play League. It's like 12 years ago I started playing that game. Like I'm not
Yeah.
playing it
Yeah.
anymore. I'm not taking it seriously for sure. And so I think to my point, right, is that you only have so many hours to dedicate to those
Yep.
things. Just every
Yeah.
once in a while, whatever's pulling you away. And so I think that categorizing your time well it's a skill, right? And
Yeah.
it's something you have to be able to parse through, especially in game dev. So you release Chess Survivors,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't do it as well as you want it to, but it does well, right? Especially in
Yeah.
retrospect, looking back at it.
Yeah. Oh,
Um,
absolutely. Looking back at it, I want to go like give myself a hug after that and be like, dude,
yeah,
this is so good. Like what you
hmm
did here is so great. Like yeah, you have to go get a job again, but like this is awesome. Like you did it. You got a game on Steam. It's it's actually pretty good too. Like good job.
yeah,
Like I want to give him a big hug and be like, it's okay, buddy. Like I get it. You don't want to work here, but like, hey, you'll get another opportunity. Just wait a year and a half. We're gonna do it again in the future. Like, but I have the hindsight that he doesn't have. He doesn't know that we get to do it again in the future.
yeah, yeah, and that's what's tough, right? As you're grinding through something and working towards something, is
Yeah.
people, a lot of CEOs and gurus say this too. Not all of them earn it, but a lot of people who discuss entrepreneurship and leadership and success talk about, you didn't know any of these CEOs when they were busting their ass in the middle of the night in a warehouse to try and get shipments out the door. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Having a panic attack, sitting down crying,
Yeah,
like just
you don't
incredibly
know them.
overwhelmed. You don't know that they did
You
all
don't
that
know
stuff. You
them
don't get to see
then.
that.
You know
Yeah.
them when they're millionaires and now have free time that they can dedicate and sit on a podcast, right?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you've never saw the work and the difficulty that they had to go through to get to where
Yeah.
they eventually are. And I think that in hindsight, we can always say, man, I wish I had picked myself up. But in my opinion, that's part of the strength that comes out of saying, all right, I'm going to make something else, right? You came out of
Yeah.
Chess Survivors and you said, okay, I'm going to make another game. And that
Yeah.
other game ended up being Hexagod. So talk to me about that game.
Um Chess Survivors had about a year of early access dev, continuing to build
Mhm.
out content and stuff like that. After that got released, I think it was like October, but basically almost a year after it went into early access, it got released. Um, I then started flirting with future ideas, back into prototyping, but like this time around, an eye on what is capable that I can do. And the next game I got really close to doing was called Fibonacci's Final Sequence.
Hmm.
And it was a math-based, like, you ever play Magn or Opus Magnum, Magnum Opus? It's a Zachtronics game where you like build little contraptions that create molecules.
Oh, I
Anyways,
haven't, but I'm gonna go buy it after this now.
it's a cool game because it's a puzzle game that's not about finding one right idea. It's about finding a solution to the problem, which is
Hmm.
very different than typical puzzle games. And I liked this idea of you build the pieces and then the puzzle is basically going to be solved by trying to force the player to make more efficient solutions or faster solutions or cheaper solutions. Um, I played with that idea for a while, prototyping as a hobby. And then I didn't want to make it. I still have the app credit. I have the name. I like it's there. And it's just, I just never got to the like, this is really fun. And so then I took a random day where I just like made a little mining prototype, made a YouTube video about it saying like I gave myself an hour or took the day off of work, so I made a mining prototype. And then I
Mhm.
did a little series of the videos where I just like time myself for an hour and see how much work I could do in an hour and then like edit that down into this like little 6-minute video that I did a VO for. Um at that same time, I was talking to my company and telling them, "Hey, I'm pretty unhappy." I was a lead on a support team and I was like, "I'm pretty unhappy with this job. I love the company. I love the people I work with. I really don't like showing up to work and having zero agency over how good or bad my day is. It just it was draining. It was so draining. I could be working out. I could be eating healthy. I could be in a good mood. I could wake up on a Wednesday and walk into just a giant just fire that I had nothing to do with that I am now responsible for cleaning up. And as the
Mhm.
lead in the support team, I literally just by definition got the worst customers to deal with. So that drained on me in a long time. And I told them and I talked to them and they were finding me a new job. This is the turn of the year, kind of January, February of 2024. And I was like, well, I have a good amount of money. Chess Survivors is selling better than expected. I think I had like, and I was also saving money frugally, ruthlessly frugally, trying to save money to do this because I was like, after I came out of my depression, I was like, I gotta do it again. I gotta
Mhm.
do it again sometime. This time with a better understanding, a better, more experience. Um, and so I had like $45,000 saved up, and I did my math, and I was like, that's about just under 2 years. Let's see what we can do. I told them at the start of their financial year, I was like, hey guys, this is my 1 month notice. I'll give you plenty of time to find a replacement. I'll try to train them in if you find them. I didn't want to burn any bridges because I liked working there, and I knew that I could come back on them in the future if I needed a job again. Very transparent. Said, hey, I want to go make a game. Um, and basically went and did that. This mining prototype was happening during the time, which is why that's important. Is like then I
Gotcha.
go in full time dev, do this stuff like scope creep ramps on that project super hard. It becomes like a mining and crafting game where you're going to be rolling stuff with like PoE type mods on gear. I was trying to add
Mhm.
combat to the game and spells and all these kind of ARPG esque systems, and it got really hard. I got like analysis paralysis. And so then I was like, I took a step back and I was like, what if I just made a game in 30 days? And that's where Hexagod came about. Was like, I saw Stacklands. I had made a Stacklands type game jam game at one point a couple of years ago for the GMTK game jam. And I was like, what if I kind of took this idea and played with it to see if I could make a Stacklands type game? It seems like a pretty low scope game, yada, yada, yada. Really ran fast with that project and was doing well and kind of hitting my idea was 30 working days to get it done. Actually got to a pretty decent point after 30 days. Published the demo. Retromation played it again. Orbital Potato played it, and that's where I first met Orbital Potato. And then a publishing company reached out and they showed incredible interest. So I was going to then run toward the October Next Fest. They showed interest in it. We were going back talking about it. I had never talked to a publisher before.
Mhm.
and basically blew past the Next Fest deadline. And they were like, "Yeah, well, we'd be happy to fund some development through the February Next Fest." And now I'm like, "Okay, cool, awesome, yeah. Let me start thinking of ideas that can make this game more, so I can start filling some of this time out."
Mhm.
You can see the scope creep coming in here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I get really anxious during this time. I start looking at these deals. I reach out to lawyers for the first time. They go through it, and I'm just like full of anxiety, thinking of like the legal implications of some of these things. And talking to a lawyer, they start pointing out like worst case scenarios and stuff. And even though they're probably low percent chances, I was like, let's say I have to go to and like I all of a sudden I'm like, oh, it's $300 for a lawyer, $400 for a lawyer. Let's say I have to go fight this publisher over something at some point because I made some mistake or something.
Mm.
30 hours of lawyer fees and I'm out of business. Like I don't have like the income to support like fighting a legal battle. And so like really anxious through September, and eventually I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to walk away from this. I don't actually need the money. I still had about a year and a half of runway at that time. And so I walk away from that deal, but now I'm like, okay, let me aim for the February Next Fest still. And now that's the bottle's off the cap. Someone's validated my thing externally with this publisher and they wanted to pay money for the game and stuff like that. And like all of a sudden, this tiny little 30-day project becomes something I end up working on all the way through March of 2025. So it
Mm.
becomes this game that almost like becomes this whole year dev cycle to get into early access in March. I'll stop there
So
because I rambled a lot there. That's a
no,
lot of
no,
talking at you.
you're good. I love it. It's good information. I have a couple questions in relation to the publisher aspect, and then we
Yeah.
get to the game, right? Because
Yeah.
there's some developers like Thomas Brush who live off making deals with publishers so that they can super scope and super polish their games,
Sure.
right? Um, and so at that time, after talking with the Lord, do you think your anxiety got the better of you, maybe? Because it seems like outside looking in, of course, I haven't read, I don't know what your deal was. I have no idea the details, but it seems outside looking in that the risk tends to be on the publisher.
Yeah.
That, hey, they're going to give you a bunch of money, and if you don't pay it back, they're kind of like, well, they don't come asking you for a check.
Yeah. I think the big thing that looking back at that time, it's like I was starting to develop my risk and reward tolerance as a business. That's not something I had really understood. It was like I knew I
Yeah.
wasn't really in a position. I wasn't like I was basically putting 45K up to pay for mortgage, pay for food, pay for cat food,
Mhm.
X, Y, and Z, right? Like,
Yeah.
and I was okay with all that money going away. That I'd accepted that like this is a new bet, this is a new runway, this is a new opportunity to go at game dev with a little bit more experience under my belt. Working with the downside of that ending prematurely, I think for me felt like too existential, and like just even starting to think about working with other people at that moment, I'm like, I was being a solo developer, although I think it has a lot of drawbacks, you're so lean. You're so lean, you're so flexible. I didn't have to answer to anybody. It's just like, yes, I probably would have learned some things. Yes, they probably would have helped shape the game in a different way. And they would have funded it was like I think it would have paid for 6 months of my time, my runway. So it would have like
Mhm.
pushed out the runway. So then if the game makes any money, all of a sudden I become net positive pretty quickly on that endeavor. Is that a good decision? Maybe, right? Like I that could honestly you could look back at that decision and say, you had a good deal. They came to you. You were in a position of power. I got a lot of negotiating done that I was like comfortable with and got the deal in a spot that was like more favorable for me. And I still walked away because I was like, I didn't like the idea of tying myself to this company and then also potentially like even the small that say it's a D100, you need to roll one. I wasn't comfortable with the 1% risk just ending the adventure for me.
Yeah. That makes sense too. I
Does
think a
it? I
lot of
don't
people,
know. I can
well,
sit
I
here now
think,
having made a game of being a black hole and be like, that was a great decision now. It led to me having a hit game, but like
yeah.
I don't make a game of feeding a black hole and say I make two more games that are flops and I have to get a full time job again. I think I look back at the decision and say, well, I definitely screwed up because I could have had this nice deal. I could have learned from these publishers. Even if it wasn't a great relationship, I probably would have learned a lot from working with them. So I don't actually know how to look back at that decision, other than
I
what I did. I'm still comfortable with.
I think I like to follow the rule that successful and driven people will be successful regardless. It's just the timing,
Yeah.
right? So the way I parse through that is, let's say you go with that publisher deal, and Hexagod becomes a much better game because of it.
Yeah.
And sells gangbusters, right? People love it.
Yeah.
People who love 4X and strategy games just salivating over Hexagod. And then the publisher goes, hey, that was gangbusters. Let's go round 2. So in that reality, you never make a game about feeding a black hole. You make Hexagod 2, and it also goes nuts. And you're successful anyway, right? Or
Sure.
let's say you go through that publishing deal. It doesn't work out, but you build a relationship with somebody at the publisher. You make another game. That person leaves that publisher, goes to another publisher, and says, "Hey, this guy Aarimous, I know him. He was working on a game called Hexagod. It didn't do that great, but I think the publisher I worked at before fucked it up.
He's a cool
So
dude. Yeah.
now I want him over here." And then you build industry relationships, and you would have made a successful game with that guy, right? I think it's like the thought process that Tom Brady probably would have been successful and won Super Bowls at on any other team in the NFL, right? He probably wouldn't have won 6 of them, but he probably would have won 1 or 2. You know, that's just how driven and how skilled that guy is.
Yeah.
And so that's what I subscribe to, is that
You're saying I have a
you
decent
would-
wins above replacement, hopefully, is what you're
Yeah, is that you would have been successful even if, let's say, a game about feeding a black hole, people are like, I don't want a circle that clicks for itself. This game's boring, right? And then they just don't ever buy the game. The next game you would have made would have been successful, is in my estimation. Yeah. That's what I'm saying, is that driven people who try to get better at things and focus on hard work, that they're eventually going to stack up enough to win. I mean, I'm in sales, so obviously I'm feeding this because I live. I live this, right? Is that if you do enough
calculated bets all day.
Yeah, if there's enough input, you could, even if you suck, over input leads to some output, right?
Yeah.
So, I think you would have been successful regardless.
Appreciate that. Thank you. Let's rewind the clock to January of last year. We're talking, this is like pre Hexagod Next Fest. This is pre Hexagod release. This is pre Game of Feeding Black Hole. I still think at that time, my vision was like, at the time I was seeing the long tail of sales of Chess Survivors, be like, oh, cool. I still was like, oh, if I do this 4 or 5 times, the game can be small successes. I wanted Hexagod. Each game I'm making, I want to be a hit, right? I'm not trying to make games that are mediocre, but like, it's like, even doing something that comes out and sells somewhere between 1,000 to 10,000 games, if you get enough of those stacked up, you can have a nice little carve out of a living. And so it's like, that was something that I kept kind of understanding this time around, was like, okay, it is a numbers game. I could just do it enough times. Now, I didn't really, I kind of failed with Hexagod as far as like doing it efficiently in time manners, but there's a story that I was telling about how I got to the scope creep. So I think if you rewind, I did have the mindset of like, I could be successful. And I think that probably informs the decision of like, I don't need this publisher back in 2024, because it's like, if this game comes out, it flops, I'll go make another game, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I can basically cut my ties with Hexagod whenever I want. But with the publisher, it's signing me up for an unknown amount of work that the publisher would have, based off the deal, could say, hey, you need to do more work on this thing for X, Y, and Z reason. You know, and some of that stuff could have changed in the terms and all those agreements, but like, basically not taking the publisher let me cut my losses on Hexagod and then turn into a game about feeding a black hole.
Yeah, I mean, there are tons of examples about that. Those guys don't come on podcasts that often. They don't show up in news articles or whatever. But there are a lot of indie devs or very small companies that make like hundreds of match 3 games and spot the difference games, and they post them up on Steam and a ton of other platforms where a bunch of people are playing those. and they rake in a pretty good monthly living just
Yeah.
making the new match 3 and the new spot the difference. And it might be unsexy for some devs out there that want to make the next Binding of Isaac, right?
But they're working for
But
themselves, doing
yeah,
whatever they
they're
want to. Yeah.
and yeah, and that's the niche they've carved out, and that is an honorable thing to do. Just
Yeah.
because you're not the next Binding of Isaac doesn't mean you're not a game developer, and you don't have to have these cracking successes, but it does mean that your pipeline and your dev cycle needs to be shorter, needs to be more
Yep.
intentional, and it's going to work a lot more like a job. Because if you knock it out of the park with, you know, Stardew Valley is a poor example because it's like one of the most massively successful indie games ever.
Yeah.
But he never has to work again, right?
No.
Never has to work again
He has
if he
dragon
doesn't
money.
want
He can
to.
go into the
Yep.
mountains and sit on his pile of money and just
Yeah.
roll around on the cash.
And everybody wants to make that game, but not everybody is willing to do the work that he did. Nor there's a lot of people that did the work he did and made a game that nobody
And
played.
there's survivorship bias in all of this,
Yeah.
right? Like
Yeah.
even talking to me now,
Mhm.
I have a little bit of survivorship bias, which is like getting back to your point about the CEO being in the warehouse, stressed out. In my picture,
Mhm.
he's having a panic attack too.
Yeah.
I'm trying my best to try to point out that like this wasn't a foregone conclusion, that my path through here was full of bumps and troughs and moments where everything seemed like it was falling apart, and like anxiety and depression and all of these things became because I don't want to look like a survivorship bias, and I do want to point out that like everyone's journey looks different, and it's going to take these
Mhm.
twists and turns. And in a lot of these moments, like that publisher agreement we're talking about here, like I had no idea how it would work out. I had no idea if this was a great decision or a bad decision. It was the decision I made, and then I moved forward with that given decision in the context, and like just try to keep learning and growing from it.
Yeah.
That's all we
I-
can do.
And I think on the survivorship bias point, you have to have a little humility too, because a game about feeding a black hole is a fantastic, the most I it's just such sweet simplistic perfection in game design with what it's trying to do. You know what I mean? It's designed so sleek and so tight. It deserves all the success it has, right? But what if that's the last successful game you make, right? So you have to have a little humility because you're a young guy, right?
We're
If you
gonna make
want to
flops. It's gonna happen.
Yeah, if you
We're
want to
gonna have flops.
retire at 65, even as successful as this game was, it's not going to carry you into
I
retirement.
can't do it.
You know?
I can't. I can't. This isn't return. Yeah, this is not.
Yeah.
It's gonna basically break even for what I would have made had I kept my like 6-figure Salesforce development jobs. Like
Mhm.
it'll bring me back to even, and then like basically in the long tail sales on this game is gonna be make me set and like personally safe for the
Mhm.
foreseeable future. So like if you hate me, I'm not going away. I'll be here for a while.
But it's important, like as creators, as workers, right? Like I work a 9 to 5
Yeah.
still.
Yeah.
The focus is on making sure that you set yourself up for when you eventually decide to not work. And then for me, for those listening who may be aspiring, Aramis's channel, if you don't know already, which how could you if you're watching this one? But if you don't know his channel
I hope the Venn
already,
diagram's a circle, but
he is his YouTube content lately has been about empowering people who maybe feel like they can't get a game done or won't get a game done. I think the best video of yours that I've watched to date is one you released recently, which is, hey, just make a game this year, right? And that was the whole premise of the video. And
Mhm.
I was already planning on making a game this year when I watched that video, but it did make me go, all right, I'm gonna fucking release a game this year. It's going to happen. It's not going to happen, right? But if you're in my shoes and you currently have a job and that pays your bills, and you're going, how could I ever develop a game? Well, it's just like any other hobby that you really love. You just need to make time for it, right?
Yeah.
And I'm probably, of the examples of people you could pick, right? Like I'm the 4 jobs and 8 kids example of the dad that has no time but loves games, and
Yeah.
I'm still trying to find time. And everybody has time in their life. You just have to
How do you find time
figure
with
out
that
when to
busy
carve.
schedule?
Yeah, it's just figure out when to carve, right?
How do you find how do you carve that? How do you actually do that? Because it's like I think a lot of people rely on motivation to get them to like go to the gym or do game dev, but like
hmm
there's a lot of times where I'm not motivated to do game dev. Like I'm not motivated. So like how do you carve out that time in your busy life? Like maybe you are motivated all the time to do games, but like you have a lot going on. How do you find that time?
Well, I think, and I'm gonna say this like I don't know, like a dad. I am a dad, so I guess that's how it's gonna come out.
Like I
Is
am a
that
dad. You're like, we have proof that you are a dad.
but there's more time in the day than you think when you're young. When you get older, you realize that there's a lot more things you could be doing, right? The amount of time we spend on our phones, the amount of time we spend watching YouTube. I still watch YouTube a ton with the time to car. I just the amount of time we consume around us is you could be doing something productive. Everybody realizes that, especially the older you get. Is I need to make time for things, right? So, the reality is that my life is just really regimented. I get up at 6 a.m. I go to the gym. I get back. My kids are up. I make my kids breakfast. I change my son. I get him a bottle. My wife wakes up. I hand the kids off to her. I go to work. I work for 8 hours. I have the luxury of working from home at a very well-paid job. I work from home. I get to eat lunch with my kids. When I get done with work, my wife starts working. She also works from home, but she's working now and will work until 11 p.m. tonight. I hang out with the kids until it's time for them to go to bed at 7. I put them to bed. My youngest son is still up. I feed him at 7:30 and put him down. I had to put him down right before we had the conversation. And then from 8 to midnight, I do game dev or play games or watch YouTube or some combination thereof.
Yeah, it's like
Um,
your me time.
what's that?
It's like your me time.
Yeah, and during the weekend, I do none of that. I spend time with my family.
Yeah.
But during the week, there's no guilt for my wife because she's working. So I'm sitting down and playing games or game dev or watching YouTube, and the kids are asleep. So there's no guilt for me during those hours. I can spend those hours doing whatever I want, and I choose to do that. I'm also lucky that I'm probably one of the very few people in this world that don't need 8 hours to sleep. My wife does, but I do not. I get 6 hours of sleep a night and have for probably 15 years, and I can run on that and sugar-free Red Bull. And so that's it. And there are some times on the weekend where maybe we're having a lazy day, or maybe I live in South Florida, so maybe it's raining outside and it's rainy season. It's real bad. Kids want to stay inside. And then I will carve out some time to sit here and play games or do game dev, right? But I just choose to. But the thing is while I'm at the gym, or we're taking a walk, I'm thinking about, all right, what do I have to do next? Right.
Yeah.
And everything is everything is scheduled. You and I have talked about that offline, but I schedule everything I do. So every task I have to get my game released by November has a date on it.
Yeah.
So aside from a time, I am hard locked, and I live by that in everything I do. Just like my normal work job is, I'm very task oriented. I tell people at my job, if you didn't email me, if you didn't set me a task, it doesn't exist, because that's just how I operate.
Sure.
So yeah, we're coming up on time here, but I know a game about feeding a black hole is your most successful game, but I want to talk to you about Hexagod because I love Hexagod.
Yeah.
I played it even more yesterday. And I know you're the developer of the game, so you know this better than I do. But as I played it, and it's still in early access, right? I'm right on that. Yeah. It's still listed in early access.
Oh yeah.
You can see how fucking good this game can be every time you play, or at least every time I play it. I'm like, oh my god, if he just finished this, because I'm the type of game player that I love puzzles to solve. in games. It's my favorite thing, right? And so
Yep.
for me, aligning tiles with the same other tile to get their numbers up, and then putting the farm in the middle so that one worker can harvest all at once,
Yep.
and then building out for that for every resource on the map, and then building out the converted resource, steam and bricks and planks and all that, and then just seeing that the fruits of that extension, pop into the screen at the end of every turn, so dopamine inducing.
Yeah. Building an engine is
But
really fun in that game.
what's that?
I said building the engine is really fun in that game.
Yeah, it's so cool. But every time you play it, or at least for me, I'm like, oh, there could be, if there was like one more thing. You know what I mean? If there was like a meteor that hit the ground and like forced me to change or move.
Yeah.
But it's the only thing that really juices me up of the games you play. Not that a game about feeding a black hole didn't juice me up, because it definitely
No
did.
offense. No offense. It is.
But
Hexagod's the game I love. Hexagod. The whole premise of Hexagod is I wanted to build a game. This isn't what I initially, because it was initially trying to do Stacklands type stuff and morphed into this game that it was like, I love the first 100 turns of a Civ game. But what if you could terraform, instead of exploring the tiles, you place them yourselves? So then instead of like coming across a perfect research station or whatever the district is called, where it's like if you get a bunch of mountains around it and you have this 5 adjacent mountain thing, this is the perfect place to put your research place. I swear I've played that game for hundreds of hours. I just haven't played it in a long time. I don't know what the name of it is. It's not Research District. Science District. I don't know.
yeah, I don't remember either.
And so it was that. It was like, how could I make a game where you're placing tiles down like Tetris, and then you build the adjacency bonuses you want, and then you exploit the crap out of them with like improvements and people like that. So I still sold that it's like 2 or 3 ideas from being a great game, and it's also probably 2 or 3 ideas that are in the game that probably need to come out. And I don't know what those things are or what they look like.
Yeah,
And
I don't know either.
reasonably can't spend the time as a business on that game right now.
No,
So
you
it's
can't.
like,
Yeah, you have to keep pushing where the golden goose right now, which is a game about
not
feeding
even
black
the golden
hole.
goose, but like for what I want to do next and like what Thornity I want to do in the calendar year, there's a lot of more really exciting things that I want to do now that if I spend 200 more hours on Hexagod, I can't, it's an opportunity cost.
Yeah,
I can't
for
spend my
sure.
time and energy on that game. So it's like, essentially what it's probably going to be is like, if I have a Sunday afternoon and I want to do game dev, I'll probably start cracking away on Hexagod because it's still in early access and I
Yeah, the
love
benefit
it.
is
It's a
you
great
get
little
a
game.
you get a second release since it's still in early
Yeah, I
access.
get a
So
second release whenever I want to.
so you
Yeah.
get a second release. The thing about Hexagod that I found through playing it was that it's very much like Civ in the early section of it, where it plays very slow.
Yeah.
And you're like, can we get on with it, right? Because if you've
Yeah.
played Hexagod, and much like if you've played Civ, the first 50 turns are like, okay, yep, I get writing, I get pottery, I need this, I need husbandry. Let me, all right, I need this tile, right?
Yeah.
And Hexagod has, now that I think I'm on trial 3. Is that what they're called? Trials?
Spoiler, there's only 3 of them, I think. So.
Yeah. But now that I'm there, when I play around, I'm like, all right, give me a fucking person so I can start pulling resources out of this tile. Like, give me another, because you only get 2 around. And I know you've balanced the game, so you shouldn't get more than 2. But when I play, I'm like, all right, I really want to start getting wood right now. Can you please just give me a person?
I think there's
right?
not
you
enough
get to the
build
point
making
where
in like tools to do alternate types of builds, and like there needs to be like this like I don't like necessarily the prescribed path of you get tile, you get person, you get to place a building down or whatever, right? I think there should be a little bit more freeform decision making early, so you can say I'm gonna be based out, because like what I really really want is based off the tiles you're presented and the adjacencies you get. It enables different strategies, which is also the beginning of Civ. Like the beginning of Civ to me feels less boring. You may be prescriptive from a path, but like because you're doing the scouting, you're then planning cities, you're looking, you're seeing well, based off this situation, based off of my traits, I can do this sort of a build. I can start
Yeah.
going down these paths because I found that natural wonder of that. So it's like, what I really want is that you built these adjacencies, you found these hidden islands, you found these relics that really should inform then that build creation. It's the same thing in a TFT game. Based off what the
Mhm.
game presents you early, really starts to define what your build can look like and be. Regardless of scouting other players, it kind of
Mhm.
really determines here's the building blocks I got, and here's where I'm gonna go because I got these augments, I got these early units, and this is probably the path I'm gonna try to work toward and go down. Not saying there can't be pivots along the path because I think great TFT games do have pivots, but it's like that doesn't happen in Hexagod. And there's also just not enough pieces in Hexagod where there's probably a few meta ideas where you've found of like these are just the best paths forward. Like these sort of things are broken and I'm just gonna abuse the crap out of them because maybe Steam is just useless for you. Where like
Mhm.
planks and stone is just so good, I'm gonna always go for those two combos. I don't know what that looks like or means, but like I love the game idea. I hope that comes across in how passionate I
Yeah.
am.
No, I
And
love it too.
I wish I could, I guess I could spend 200 more hours, but that comes at a cost of what we were
Yeah,
talking about
because it's
earlier. I'm
yeah.
only one person. I only have so much time on this planet, and
Yeah, and
there's
there's
other
a
things I want to go
reality.
and do.
Yeah, there's a business reality too. Like we have at my work, I sell clocks. It's not super sexy, right? But I sell
I come from a
synchronized
family who
clocks.
made clocks. Like my grandpa made a bunch of grandfather clocks, so
There you go.
yeah, I'm down for clocks.
Yeah, these are wireless clocks to schools and businesses, right? So
Great.
we
I hate
have
the ticking noises, so that's perfect.
we have two clocks. I'll tell you this. We have a 12-inch diameter analog clock that gets put in most schools in the country. And then we
Hmm.
have a digital clock, right? Most people are moving to digital. I personally prefer that analog stay in schools because children should know how to read an analog clock, right? Makes
Sure.
sense. But a digital clock costs like 3 times as much. And if you're putting them in 200 classrooms, I really want you to fucking buy a digital clock.
And you're incentivized for them to buy the digital clock. Like you make a lot more money on selling digital
Yes.
clocks. You personally, not your company.
Nope.
You
Me
personally.
personally. Yes. Me
Yeah.
personally. The company makes 60 cents on the dollar for everything. Doesn't matter if it's digital or analog. But me
Right.
personally, I make a lot more if it's digital clocks. So I am incentivized. Digital clocks are a game about feeding a black hole, and analog clocks are my hexagon, right? I love analog clocks. I do genuinely think
Yes.
they should be in every school building,
Yeah. Yeah.
but digital clocks make me money. And
Yeah.
so there is a reality in that to business. I just think like, when I play Hexagod, just from a gamer perspective, not even a game designer, right? Because I think objectively, a game about feeding a black hole is the better designed game of the two. Um,
Yep.
I
Yeah.
I think the more fun game to play for me personally has been Hexagod because I finished a game about feeding a black hole, and it's the exact same feeling I had when I finished Portal, where I was like, that is exactly as long as that game needs to be.
Yep.
That's
You don't have
exactly
to
as
play any
many
additional
times.
game modes. You could be
Yep.
happy with it.
That's
Yeah.
exactly
Yep.
as long as I need to play it. That was wonderful, right? It
Yep.
didn't overstay its welcome. It didn't overcomplicate what it did. What it did beautifully,
Thank you.
perfect, right?
Thank you.
It felt like it felt like when you slapped the money on the counter to pay for the movie ticket, you left the movie with your friends and you're like,
Yeah,
that
like that was
fucking
worth my
ruled.
$20. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
like, that fucking ruled. Hell yeah.
That was Dune 2 for me. I left Dune 2.
Yep.
I saw Dune 2 twice in theaters. I was like, this is immaculate in the theater. Like same with
Mhm.
Interstellar. Saw Interstellar 3 times. And I was like, there's some movies you go to a theater and you're like, I will never watch a movie in this format. It's best done in this like huge
Yep.
speakers, huge. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I fully agree with you,
100%.
man.
Yeah, and
Well, I'm
then
glad I gave you
Hexagod.
that experience. That's incredible.
Yeah, it's great. It literally it made me go, this parts of it were like, this is how I want to design games,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Particularly
yeah.
the UI. I think that the readability and the way that UI is presented, because
Yeah.
it's like half the game, right? The UI
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
is so well done. It's
Thank you.
it's pretty
You can
much
see from Chess
if you
Survivors to
yeah,
Hexagod to that though, how
yep,
much of it is a through line and
yeah,
refinement of those ideas.
yeah, for sure. And it's one of those things where um if you gave a school if you gave a project like that to a group of school students, right?
Mhm.
This would be the example given before they started, right? Where you said, this is what you're making a game about, right? It's all you're making a game about. A game about
Yeah.
digging, the game about fleeing a black hole, a game about digging a hole, right?
Yeah.
There's been a lot of those, kind of like the survivors type games. A game
Yeah.
about feeding a black hole has a lot of different games about that, right? But the only ones that do that and follow that formula that are successful are the ones that take that singular idea, expound upon it, don't overcomplicate it too much, right? Like if you went too far with a game about feeding a black hole, the screen would be Megabonk Endgame,
Yeah.
right? Which
Yeah.
is just
Yeah.
it's just lights and seizures, right?
And we get there, and we definitely are intentional of ending. There's some play times where I'm like, we're I went through and I'm like, this is too much. We're
Mm-hmm.
spending too many minutes here. Let's shave down some of the costs of these upgrades or cut some upgrades and stuff and collapse them down to be like, we need to end a little sooner, or else our players are gonna start to fatigue at the very end.
Yeah, I think
There's a lot of
if I
intention there.
yeah, and it shows. It's like it's real. It's just it's like a good cookie, right? You're like I
A little
can't eat too
chewy, a
many
little
of these,
crunchy.
but
Yeah.
that was
Salty, a
perfect,
little
right?
sweet. Yeah. Yep.
And Hexagod is like a bag of goldfish. Like I could just handfuls of that
Yeah.
over and over and over.
I hope I can
Because
reverse
of
engineer some
its
ideas from my Game of Being a Black Hole and bring them back into taking that core idea
Mhm.
of placing tiles and exploiting that adjacency and do it in a way where one, I don't need a stupid tutorial, and two, it can be just so simple and elegant. And
Yeah,
this is
and
a
but
bad
and
conversation for me to have. I want to go do
no, that's okay.
it.
But I think too, like some of the strength of Hexagon, and it depends on what kind of games you want to make, right? Because I think the complexity of Hexagod, even though I do think the tutorial is overawed, the complexity of Hexagod to me as a consumer, right? Not even as a game
Yeah.
developer, to me as a consumer is what I like about the game.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've gotten, and I've seen reviews on a game about feeding a black hole, like the linear upgrade path. The one con I could ever give a game about feeding a black hole is that it is mindless. It is mindless fun, but it is mindless.
Hmm.
The
Very
interactivity
intentional
is
as well.
moving a circle around the screen, right? But
Yep.
what's great about the game and what it does better than almost any other game in its genre is that it tricks you into thinking you're doing more than you are because there's all this interactivity involved with moving your mouse around the
Yep.
screen built into the
And
game
as soon
design.
as you get bored with it, our big thing was introduce a new piece of candy, a new
Yep.
piece of novelty, a
Yeah,
new
so good. Yeah.
I still very viscerally remember the moment where moons all of a sudden clicked in us and we're like, "Oh, this is the new crack. This is so good," because it was like up until then it's like, "Oh, hover, 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 hover. Lightning is fun to hover. Cool, get a bunch of money from
Yep.
Golden," but it was like a lot of the same stuff and all of a sudden it was like, "Oh, my new purpose in life becomes collecting as many moons." It's like it
Yep.
literally breaks your brain again. You're still doing almost the same thing, but you feel like it's completely different than
Yeah,
before. And
it's almost
it came at the
perfect
right
pacing.
moment. It was ooh,
Yeah. It's perfect
yeah,
pacing because like you said,
yeah.
it's just circle, then it's lightning, then it's gas, I think, and then
And we got rid of gas. It
um
became golden because gas was too hard to balance
oh
around.
yeah. And
Yeah.
but it was just gas was in the demo. That's why I remember
Gas
gas
is in the
because
demo, yes. And
when I
it's
was in the
back in the
demo I
game
played that.
now, but not in
Oh,
the full
okay.
game. Yeah.
But yeah, so when each nugget that you give the player kind of makes them forget that they're just moving their mouse around the screen, right? There's
Yeah.
just more to do. And and because it's so fun to engage with, when you get to that upgrade path, you're just glad to get something new, right? And I think
Yep, and
the
we make a
thing that
contract quickly with the player that they can go every time they go back, there's gonna be something for you. Like That is
Yeah.
something we very, very intentionally were like, we want you to every time go back and get something. Like
Hmm.
every time you get a new piece of candy, like here you go.
Yeah, and I always did for sure when I did my playthrough. It's just I want
Yeah.
something else. I want something
Yeah.
else. But I think that that was the right decision, even though, I've seen some people like, man, I wish you could like pick a build and this and that. But I think it was the right
That's fine.
decision because it paces
There's
the
games they can
game
go play. That's not
in
what
the
this
way
game
that makes
was.
sense. Yeah, and I think that
Yeah,
it plays in a
that's okay.
way and it's paced in a way that you can't stop playing it until it's over. I mean, you really be hard. I also kind of joked. I laughed out loud when I finished the game. My wife was in the same room working when I finished. I laughed out loud. She was like, "What's so funny?" I said, "I finished the game mode of this game in 2 hours and 1 minute exactly."
That's perfect.
So yeah, so I mean, if they pace this the way it feels like it was paced, I can't return the game now. Steam won't let me.
The objective was never to do the whole
I know.
return
I
kind of
was
stuff.
no,
Like,
I
I know
know.
some
I
people
was
will get
just
mad about that,
I
but
just
like,
thought I was just laughing because it just
yeah.
felt like, but even if it was an hour
Even
and
the
a
2 hours
half,
though
it
feels
would have
like a
been
good
like
end mark, right?
a,
Like it
a,
feels like that game should be
a
done at that point.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
it feels like I would have like when I got done. I even if I got done at an hour's 45, there's no way I'm returning that game because one, I want to go back and play other game modes, but two,
Sure.
I think most players, not all, right, but most players have a respect for something that good when you get done.
Yep.
That
Yeah.
even if you end at an hour and a half, just like watching a good movie, you're like, hell yeah, like
Yeah.
I got my money's
This was worth
worth.
my value.
Yeah,
And it's a
100%.
$5
That's
game,
how
and
I
so two
felt.
dollars
Yeah.
of 2 hours of fun is perfectly fine for us.
First, dude, I would have paid $8 for that game.
The market doesn't though.
Would have,
Like there's
yeah.
incremental games that have come out that have $8, and you know what a lot of the negative reviews say?
Hmm.
This is way not worth its price because this is
Yeah,
the whole thing of like look at the market, look at the games, like be
yeah,
honest with yourself with the content you have. If you're gonna go higher in price, you have to have higher quality and more content. That's
yeah.
simply the rule of the market on Steam. And so
That's
if you don't
true.
have those things, just price it at the same price as every other game in your genre and
Yeah,
call it
and
a
not
day.
everybody has the same disposable income too. So like and that's the thing you have to be cognizant of. Like I think about that a lot. Like when I look at a game, if it's under $20, that's cheap to me. But my brother, I
Sure.
was talking to him about that exact thing. I was like, "Well, it's $15." He's like, "$15 for that?" You know what I mean? He just has a different view, and
Yep.
and
Yeah.
different consumers are gonna consume differently, of course. But I think a game about feeding a black hole is just an exceptional, an exceptional game. Pacing, design, it's
Yeah.
beautiful in its simplicity, and I think that's why it was a success. Not
Thank you.
that you don't know any of that already, but
Yeah, but
that's
all
just
that
how it
stuff is
felt to me.
intentional too. And the other side of it is like
Yeah, for
Thorn
sure.
D approached me and was like, "Hey, if we played the inspiration for the game is called Keep on Mining, and like they have one big grid, and so your decisions do matter. But what happens then is you get in suboptimal situations, and now these grinds become grindy, and you want to stop playing. And so we were very like, we can make a game that has really good pacing. The trade off is you lose linearity, but then we
Mhm.
say, well, let's just make sure every time they go to the tree, they get an upgrade. We build this contract with the player from the first upgrade. These are big chunky upgrades. You want to come here, we're going to take you on a power trip. We make a contract with you, and then we make sure that that pacing feels good. And so that's why the 2 hours feels good. And it could have been a 5 hour game, right? Like, but the content and how we do it would have been completely different. We would have had to do more mechanics in asteroids, more mechanics in planets, probably stars, probably galaxies. We would have had to do bigger, broader stuff. But like
Yeah.
for what we did for the time constraints, we chose a few mechanics that worked really well, that we play tested and paced out in the correct way that made a lot of sense.
Yeah,
So
I think it would have been a worse game if it was 5 hours. Because when I got done, it was
I don't
like
think we could
sitting
have
through a
made that in the
movie.
same
It
time. It
was
would have
like
taken us
hell
6 more months
yeah,
probably. Yeah.
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 And I wouldn't have. I probably would have got done, and it probably would have been 2 or 3 weeks before I finished the rest of the game,
Yeah.
right? Because I only had a few hours when I sat down to play it, and so like I didn't even think I would get to the end, right? But when I
Yeah.
got to the end, I was like, hell yeah, that was so fun,
I
and
pictured this person in my head who was playing it on a Sunday afternoon who didn't want to like was like God, I have the Sunday scaries. I have a. They were like, this was like, it was like made for a past version of me. You're like, oh,
Mhm.
I'm going into work on Monday. I don't know what I'm walking into. I'm a lead on a support staff. There's a version of myself that was broke and didn't have any money and had to put Oreos back on the shelf because they're too expensive these days. It was that person who's struggling, who kind of just needs 2 hours to shut out the world, take a little break, and I wanted them to play it on a Sunday, literally a Sunday afternoon, like 3 o'clock in my head, and then like, oh, dinner's ready, and you just finish the game as the dinner's ready, and I'm like, it was so clear in my head about who I wanted to play this game, because in the last year I had had some struggles, I had some difficult moments in my life, and I also craved games like this that didn't have difficulty curves, that could just give me a break and make me feel good. So just like Chess Survivors, where I made it in the right year, I also think that this game came about at the right time in my life. And that wouldn't have happened had I done the publishing agreement with Hexagod, had I not scope creeped the crap out of it, had I not, done all these different things along my line. So it's like, it did all come together and had a throughput line. And it
Yeah.
also happened at the right moments for me.
And I think it meets that example of 2 hours on a Sunday. I don't know that any game I've played has done it better. 2 hours on a
Have you
Sunday
played
kind of
Journey yet?
material.
The game Journey?
I have played Journey. Yeah, I've played Journey
I
a
think
while, but
Journey
I
does it
do.
better.
Okay. So Journey's more than 2 hours, though, isn't it? Am I
I don't know,
bullshitting?
maybe 2 to 4
I think it's.
hours. I don't know how
I
long it
feel like
is,
it was
but
more than 2 hours. I mean, just it's
fair. Okay, I'll
literally
take it. You're
it's
saying I'm
ink.
better than Journey. I'll take the
What I'm
compliment. I'll
saying
take the
is
compliment.
it's incremental. It's incremental Portal is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's where in that when you play Portal, it's like literally no second of that game was wasted, right?
Yeah. That is a
And
tight game.
yeah, a
Yeah.
very tight game, and that's how it felt to play a game about feeding a black hole. Is like there's literally no design space that it felt like it was unnecessary. Like
Yeah.
every part of it was necessary and needed, and that it's a chef's kiss of a game for the time that
Thank
you
you.
play it. But that's enough for me gushing about that game. We're well over on time. I thank you for
Yeah.
spending time with me. But I
Yeah.
did want to give you the opportunity to talk about what you're doing this year, what people should get excited about as far as games you're thinking about releasing. You
Yeah.
don't have to throw the whole bag, but maybe something coming up on your YouTube channel this year that you want to talk about.
For the YouTube channel, one of the things I think that will be interesting is I think every month I'm going to try to do a continual video in the series as though you were making a game this year, and try to hit some of these beats, hit some of these moments, hit some of these, like, really, it's like, think of the game dev coaching I do with people and try to extract out some of the common trends I see across the board, and just be like, okay, you did month one, you did this thing, here's where you should be thinking now. Here's my thoughts on this topic. Okay, you're getting your Steam page reviewed. Here's what that should look like, and here's my thoughts and tips on, like, just kind of like give like a almost like a 9-step series that would take you through a year as though you were making a game for the June Next Fest releasing in like August or something. That's something that I think is fun, that I'm like kind of cooking in the back of my head. What would the next video reasonably be like? Because I'm also probably going to be making a game along those same times. I wanted to make this mining game for February. It's not going to happen. Thornity and I are partnering on stuff. We're going to partner with other people to make other games. So there's a lot more coming from us. That might be us partnering with other developers to do those things. Does that mean the mining game comes out this year? I don't know. We're kind of going to keep a lot of stuff up in the air as far as development goes, to just listen to what's working and where we can add value and put our time and stuff like that. Because I want to keep learning. I want to keep growing. I want to keep developing skills, and I want to try to turn around and pull people up behind me. We don't want to gatekeep. It's why we share all the numbers. I've done that for years, sharing literally all the numbers of things I'm making, all the things, and now the numbers are really big and beautiful and stuff, and that's great. But like at the same time, I've never been someone who's like, let me gatekeep our strategies, and so I'm trying to glean as much information and share that with the people. And if you've enjoyed this podcast so far, you should like and subscribe to the podcast, or your YouTube channel. I don't know if you're calling this a
Yeah,
podcast.
I think it's gonna be. I think it'll be called Game Dev Kev. But if it's called not that,
Cool.
I'll switch it around.
Awesome. If you've made it this
and
far, though, you
blank it
got to
out.
make sure you subscribe and like and leave a comment and all that fun stuff.
Appreciate that shout out. Anything? Last few minutes. Anything you want to ask me? I know I'm uninteresting at all, but just outside looking in, think of me as, I'll say this: think of me as your YouTube audience, so an aspiring
Yeah.
game developer who is looking at you through the lens of their computer screen or their phone. What's something you want to know about people who are trying to break into game development and learn the industry?
Hmm. Um, I'm interested to know what your biggest worry is. Like, is there something that gets you? I think sometimes when I like lose my confidence, I picture it like I'm from Minnesota, so you're in Southern Florida. You probably never have ice. When I'm out driving around right now, sometimes I'll hit a patch of ice and my wheels start to spin, or
Hmm.
I guess for you maybe that would be I don't know, walking on hot sand. I'm trying to come up with an analogy.
It would
Anyways,
just
I
be
feel like my
water.
wheels
There's
are
so much
spinning, right?
water here. Yeah.
I don't have traction. You're hydroplaning, whatever it is, right?
Hmm.
There's something where you lose your traction. Is there a thing that you start to think about too much that makes you start to feel like you're losing your traction? Like it almost feels like this like ever sinking kind of moment where you're just like, oh my, this game dev thing, it just kind of really riles me up. Is there anything that comes to mind as I ask that question?
Yeah, the immediate thing is lack of knowledge, right? So
So just
I
unknowns.
get just unknowns. So as I mentioned, I work a job. I know how to do that very well, and I've been doing it for a long time. So there's a comfort level there. There's a
Yeah.
fear in game dev where you've played a lot of games, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you're a good game designer, right?
Yeah.
So, and with game dev, especially solo game dev, there's only so many things you're good at. And so you have to try and really focus in on the things you're good at and then learn the rest. But learning while doing and trying to put the car together as it's rolling is terrifying. And so one of the things that stops me in my tracks from hitting a timeline I've set for myself is the fact that I go, hey, I have this daunting task in front of me, and I don't even know where to begin
Yeah.
with doing that. Right? I've been in Unity, I've been in Godot, I've played around, I've popped objects in, I've made a move, right? But now I have to do this thing that I've never done before. And it has to be done in order for this game to work well. And I have to learn it from zero. And not knowing where to start with something like that, like for me right now, it's UI, as we talked about earlier. And I've gotten a little better with that on the progress I made
Yeah.
today. But the point is that everything else is so much faster, and that's the fear for me. But and on a higher level, the fear is not putting the game out at all.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's as simple as that. I don't want to, and I think most people who are getting into game dev don't want to fall into the cycle that they constantly hear repeated from other game developers, is where they're prototyping and canceling, prototyping and canceling, prototyping and canceling. I want to release a game even if no one buys it. I want that game to release. I want Steam to take $100 of my money so I can upload a file to their server and it can be on that library forever to collect dust if it needs to, but I want to release a game, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's a beautiful goal because that's the only antidote to the prototyping nature. It's just proving you can do it. Simply
Yeah.
that was where Chess Survivors came and was literally as like, I'm gonna quit my not quit. I quit my job and then I was like, I'm gonna even that year. The first four months was me just like hi. First 4 months was me. The first 4 months was me making prototypes that were still failing. And finally, I sat down. I was like, no, I'm gonna make a game on Steam. It's gonna be Chess Survivors, and I don't really care how good it is at the end. Still trying to make it good, but it was
Mhm.
like this is the deadline, mostly because I run out of money. And if like my one tip to anybody watching this is like pick a date and say that's the date. Doesn't have to be the date you run out of money because that's a scary moment. But like it can also just be a date that you just say, this is the day the game is, I'm pressing the green button on Steam regardless. And now how do I go all the way back? How do I do that? And the thing I love is it sounds like you're on your path to doing that, and you're very hell bent on doing it, and that's awesome.
Yeah. I mean, we'll see. Devlog 0 comes out February the 20th. So look in for that. All right. Well, thank you so much, Aarimous, for joining me. Thank you all for watching, and
Yeah.
we'll see you next time.
Bye bye.